I didn't even want to go. At 8:55 a.m., an email landed in my inbox. The subject line read, "Dinner with the Carters, Friday, 6 p.m." It was a formal invite from HR, with a smiley face at the end. Like that made it more friendly. After working at CoreLogic Dynamics for 25 years, helping grow it from a tiny startup in a rented warehouse to a $288 million global company, this was how I was called in. Not for a meeting, not for an official call, just dinner with the CEO and his family. My name is Abigail. I was the first person ever hired at CoreLogic. In the beginning, I was the company. We had 2 clients and 1 old printer that jammed all the time. I built the systems, I handled contracts, I did the accounting until we could afford someone. I even closed deals that kept us alive. Ronald Carter, the founder, used to call me his quiet engine. He said I kept everything going when it could have fallen apart. But lately, things felt different. Ronald started pulling away. He stopped reading my updates. Our Monday check-ins turned into short calls, then into, "let's reschedule." New interns came in, loud and excited, using buzzwords like synergy and disruption, like they invented them. So when I got the dinner invite, I knew something was up. I just didn't know how bad it would be. The restaurant was one of those trendy rooftop places downtown, expensive food, dim lights. I wore a navy blouse and pearl earrings my daughter gave me. I looked like I always did, sharp, professional, ready. Ronald was already there with his wife, Sarah, and their daughter, Frances. Frances looked perfect, blonde hair, a crisp white suit, and the kind of confidence that screamed future CEO. "Abigail," Ronald said with a big smile, "so glad you could make it. Wouldn't miss it," I said as I sat down, but inside, I felt nervous. At first, it felt like a regular work dinner, too much wine, fake compliments. Frances asked about the early days, sounding sweet but also a little mocking. "It's funny to imagine you guys working in a garage or something," she laughed. I smiled politely. It hadn't been funny back then. Ronald tried to add some weight to the conversation. "Actually, Abigail saved this company twice. She brought in our first defense contract. It got us our first $1 million. Frances just smirked. "Well, every company needs building blocks." I should have left, but I stayed. I wanted to see how far they'd go. Halfway through the halibut, Ronald folded his hands. "Abigail, we're thinking about the future," he said. "You've done so much to get us here. Here it comes. But we think it's time to bring in new energy, a fresh vision." I stayed calm. "Frances just finished a leadership course at Stanford," he added. "She has great ideas, AI, blockchain, rebranding the company." "Impressive," I said. "So what's the plan?" 7 weeks, Ronald said. "She'll shadow you. We'll announce it after next quarter's call. We also have a generous exit package for you. We want you to feel appreciated." That's when Frances leaned in, smiling with sharp eyes. "Time to step aside, Granny," she said. "We've got it from here." The table went silent. Even Ronald's wife stopped eating. I looked at Frances for a long moment, then smiled. "I understand," I said. But what they didn't know was this. CoreLogic wasn't just a company I helped grow. I actually owned part of it. Back in 1990, when things were rough, Ronald gave me 8% equity in the company. We didn't have money for raises, and I had just worked all night fixing a mistake that could have lost us our biggest client. Ronald gave me a paper and said, "I can't pay you what you deserve right now, but if we survive, this is yours." At the time, I didn't think much of it. I was tired and hopeful. But years later, when we brought in investors, I had a lawyer check all my contracts. That's when I realized, it was real. I had voting rights. I had ownership. I never mentioned it, never used it. Because I thought I still mattered. I thought I was still part of the company's heart. But CoreLogic had changed, so had Ronald. He stopped asking what I thought. He started chasing buzzwords. Frances, with her perfect resume, became the face everyone wanted. Suddenly, loyalty didn't matter, quiet work didn't matter, only appearances did. And I didn't look like the future anymore. The next Monday, I came in like nothing had happened. Smiled, got my coffee, opened my email, no announcements yet, just quiet. Austin, our data engineer, stopped by. "You okay?" he asked. "Just dinner with the Carters," I said. He looked worried. "People are talking." I met his eyes. "Let them." I wasn't ready to show my cards. Instead, I logged into the shareholder portal. My 8% was still there, and now it was worth a lot. I downloaded everything: stock records, voting rules, executive pay. Then I messaged Ronald's assistant. I'd like 25 minutes with Ronald, just us. She looked surprised, but nodded. I'll try. By Wednesday, I was in Ronald's office. Abigail, he said, how are things? Curious, I said. You didn't mention the equity I still hold. He looked unsure. I thought you cashed out. I didn't, I said, placing the contract on his desk, and I still have voting rights. Ronald folded his hands. We're offering you a generous exit. I'm not leaving, I said. Not yet. I'll help with the transition, but if Francis plans to change things or sell off assets, I want a seat at the table. He frowned. You're holding on to the past. No, I said, I'm holding on to what I built. Then I left. Let him think about that. That night, I pulled out an old filing cabinet. Inside were notes from early client meetings, designs I sketched, and the first mock-ups for our software. Then I found something important, an NDA Ronald signed in 1990. It confirmed that some of the systems I made were based on work I did before I joined the company. It was easy to forget. But I didn't forget, not now. The next day, I met with Julie, a friend and top intellectual property lawyer. We sat at a quiet bistro near CoreLogic's office. I gave her a folder full of old papers. Can I protect this? I asked. Julie looked through it all, then smiled. You own this, at least part of it, and with your equity, you've got more power than they think. I took a deep breath. They think I'm just a stepping stone. Julie smiled. Then let's remind them, even stepping stones can crack a foundation. You brought me to dinner just to tear my work apart, I said. Ronald flinched, just a little. That's not what this is, he replied. Then what is it, Ronald? I built the systems, I kept the investors from leaving when things got tough, I held this company together while you were off taking breaks in Napa. He stayed quiet. I know about the Series C dilution, I added. You're getting the company ready to be sold. His eyes widened. How did you find out? I've been here long enough to know when things are shifting. He didn't argue, he just looked down at the floor. We had to make some hard choices, he said softly. The board wants someone new, a fresh story. A story that doesn't include me, I replied. He hesitated. We're offering you a package. I don't want your package, I said, standing up. I want what I've earned. And with that, I walked out before he could say another word. Back at my office, I sent an email to Julie, my lawyer. I asked her to start filing provisional patents, not just for the original systems I built, but for every update and improvement I'd made over the years. I wasn't trying to hurt the company, I was setting boundaries. Anything I had created would now be protected by law. On Thursday morning, I saw Frances at the whiteboard. She was working on a new client retention strategy. I looked closer, and almost laughed. She had copied it nearly word for word from a document I wrote 5 years ago. She must have dug through the archives to find it. Good. Let her keep digging. While she searched for shortcuts, I was already planning my next move. She noticed me watching and smiled. I'm just updating your work a little. It gave me a good starting point. No problem, I said, walking closer. Just be sure to give credit where it's due. Plagiarism doesn't look good on quarterly reports. Her smile faltered. By Friday, rumors were spreading in the IT department. Kathy, my operations lead, pulled me aside in the break room. People are nervous, she whispered. Francis is making changes that don't make sense. Ronald's not saying anything. That's because Ronald isn't in charge anymore, I said. He just hasn't realized it yet. Kathy stared at me. What are you doing, Abigail? I smiled. I'm setting the table. For what? For the storm, I said, but don't worry, I'll be smiling the whole time. That night, I sat on my porch with a glass of red wine and my laptop open. I had already written 3 emails. One to the 5 remaining board members, reminding them of my equity, and the clause that required unanimous approval for big company changes. One to Nexra Systems, a company we almost acquired last year. I still had a good relationship with their CEO. I wanted a meeting. The 3rd email was to myself. Subject, leverage. I was saving everything, just in case. I didn't want to start a war, I wanted respect. But if they pushed me, I was ready to fight back. The official announcement came Tuesday morning. Mandatory all-staff meeting. Frances stood on stage, pacing like she was giving a TED Talk. Behind her was a slideshow full of stock photos and buzzwords. Vision, velocity, victory. Ronald smiled wide as he introduced her, calling her a breath of fresh air. Frances beamed like she had just won a crown. Then she said it. It's time for a new chapter, a younger, leaner, more innovative core logic. It wasn't even subtle. I sat in the second row with my arms crossed, watching everyone. People looked uncomfortable. Kathy seemed shocked. Austin avoided my eyes. Then Frances clicked to the next slide. Organizational streamlining plan, phase 1. My jaw tightened. It showed cuts to back-end teams, outsourcing IT, merging departments, but the worst part? Legacy management transition. That was code for me. They didn't even bother to say my name. After the meeting, Frances caught me in the hallway. She looked calm, confident. I hope you'll be graceful about this, she said. People expect that from professionals like you. I tilted my head. You mean women who've outlasted 4 CEOs and built the very systems that keep this company running? She didn't respond, just smiled like I was the one being difficult. Later that day, HR sent the separation package. A big check, a non-disclosure agreement, and a clause demanding that I help with the full knowledge transfer. That was the final straw. I walked into Ronald's office with the package in my hand. He looked like he already knew what was coming. Abigail, he began. You let your daughter stand on that stage and pretend all of this was her idea, I said. You let her call me obsolete in front of the whole company, and now you expect me to quietly hand over everything like a loyal, outdated employee? It's not like that. It's exactly like that, I said sharply. Let me make this clear, I'm not signing anything, not today, not ever. He sighed. Then you're leaving us no choice. You're forgetting something, I said, pulling out a document from my bag. I still have a seat on the board. If you try to push me out without board approval, you'll be breaking the original agreement. Ronald turned pale. You think Frances's ideas are exciting and new, I continued. But they're risky. Cutting the back end will break your systems, and that automation model she keeps pushing, it breaks our client contracts, and you know it. He leaned back in his chair, speechless. I'm not trying to destroy this company, I said, but I'm not going to let it take me down with it.